flag. Welcome back to 10 Foot Customs and part 2 of the engine build. It's been almost a month since I painted it. I've been busy and haven't had time to get back to it. But we're going to take a night here and see if we can get the rotating assembly put back in. This is going to be a multi-part series because I've never done this before, and after each step I'm going to go and study up on the next step. So once the rotating assembly is done, then I'll go look up on torque specs and everything to put the head on, and probably head, and I'll do the valve train on a separate video. So this is just going to be rotating assembly. I think I have everything together for it. I double checked. That doesn't mean I'm not missing something. So we will start assembly. So the first thing I'm going to do is roll it over and get my crank and get my bearings in, and we'll do the, we're going to plastic gauge all the bearings to make sure that they are correct. So let's start with that. Oh, another thing I'm going to do is, actually before I do my crank, is I am going to check, I'm going to take the cam back out and check all the cam bearings. I am going to be 99.8% sure that this last machine shop did this perfect, but I want to double check. And also, I've never put a cam in an engine before, and I want to put my cam into my engine. So I'm going to do that. But okay. Okay, so here's my crank. There's a little bit of rust on the end of the snout here, but that's should be fine. A little bit right there, but actually that just wiped off. Everything else looks like it's really good. The only thing I'm concerned about, and maybe it's normal, but this seal surface has a little bit of wear to it. And I was hoping they were going to cut that, but maybe they can't cut that, and that's just normal. But there's definitely a small indentation right there. But I'm not going to let it concern me. Hopefully the new seal will do its job and it'll seal it. Next step, like I said, I do want to pull the cam out just so that I can reinstall my own cam. But I do want to make sure that everything is good. Okay. So this is my comp cam. And again, it's slightly hotter than, ooh, see, because I took that out. Somehow, I got a little paint on that. I'm gonna have to get that off of there. I don't even know that happened. the paint off, but this is my comp cam. Slightly hotter than factory, but not by much. Not enough that I would have to change the anything in the head. So this will be good. And again, I am not sure what is going on. What? Things look like they've been beat to death already. This is my first time removing this cam since it got put in. So they've been sanded on. These bearings don't look right to me, and I am not going to take the chance of putting my brand new cam in there and assembling this engine with bearings that look like that until I can verify that that's okay, and I honestly don't think that that's okay. The frustration level right now is so high that I'm just going to turn the camera off and shut it down for the day and figure this out tomorrow. I mean, it's already nothing I can do about it tonight anyway, but this is not what I wanted to see tonight. I really wanted to have this rotating assembly done, and it's just the next step for me is honestly I will go buy myself a cam bearing installation tool and buy my own cam bearings, and I will install them myself, and I will make it work properly, because I'm not taking the chance at a third shop doing this to me, taking my money. And my block is all painted and pretty. If I take it to a shop, they're just going to ding it all up and make it look like a mess again. So we will try to regroup and calm down, because just the anger level is up here somewhere right now. So that's where we're at. We are back. It is Monday. The last video you saw was last Wednesday. And after many hours of research, and I called the machine shop who did the work on it, he assured me that these cam bearings are fine and that he wouldn't have let me have the block back if the cam bearings weren't to his standards. He did say he had to adjust them with some emery cloth to get the bearing, to get the cam to fit, and he says they will be just fine. So, seeing as he's done this a lot more than I have, I'm going to trust him, and if it wipes my cam out or the bearings fail, then, well, so be it. But at some point I've got to let go and say I don't know everything, and he does. Well, he knows at least more than I do. So we're going to put the cam back in here. I've cleaned the bearings up really well. I've cleaned the cam up really well. I'm going to put Comp Cam's cam comes with cam lube. So I'm going to get all these bearings lubed up, lube up the cam, and we're going to reinstall the cam, and we'll get back to where we were to plastic gauge the crank bearings. Do the same thing on the cam, and we'll slide our cam in. Cam bearings are lubricated, and we will start to slide it in here. This is a Comps Cam 68-200-4. Obviously this is for an AMC 258. This is a relatively mild cam. Actually, it's one of their most mild cams. I think this is the second one up from being their mildest cam. But this, it does have a little bit more lift than the factory cam, but it also will not require me to do any head work. as far as clearancing the valves or anything like that. So, which is what I was looking for, to just have a nice, slightly different sound maybe. Come on. Should. There we go. Slide right in. And it turns. Yeah, it turns really smooth, so I'm hoping that's good. Okay, cam is in. Now we will I'll clean up the mess here on the bearing surfaces, and we'll put our bearings in. Here we go, bearings going in for the first time, just to test. Uppers. That's number 3. I do know that for a fact. It's got the thrust bearing surface on it, and that one goes in there. Why does that not fit? I don't think these bearings fit my engine. Oh boy. Okay, well, I'm gonna look up these part number, but this doesn't look right. Yeah, this doesn't look right. Here's what I'm running into. I don't think these are the correct bearings, because I think they're supposed to fit a little bit better than that before they go down. And what's weird is this doesn't have a locker. I thought even these ones had lockers on them so they wouldn't spin. Yeah, I'm gonna look it up really quick. If these are the right bearings, that's fine. And maybe I just gotta push them more than I want, but that looks... I've done this once before, as far as I've put crank bearings into a car engine before, and I don't recall them being that far off to put them in. But I could be wrong, so I'm gonna look it up. Well, I was just back at the machine shop, and I did look up the part number before I went, and the part number does say that these are the correct bearings for a crank that was cut 10 over, but they just don't look like they fit right. So luckily the machine shop is just a mile down the road or so, 2 miles down the road, whatever it is. So I went back up there and I took him pictures of what I have here, and he said, yep, that looks right. Put them in. And so I'm going to do that. I will say that I had been working on cars for, I know I started probably when I was 8, 9, 10 with my grandfather and my dad, and then, you know, ever since, and I'm 43. There's nothing like this when you should know what you're doing and you think you should know what you're doing, and you come to something like this that makes you feel stupid and that you have no idea what you're doing, and then you go up to a place like that and you feel even more stupid having to go up there to ask, well, this doesn't look like it fits right. But that's the learning experience. Now I know that, okay, this is more normal than I thought it was, and that this is how it should look, and to put them in and be okay. But one of the nice things is that the guy, the owner of the machine shop, did tell me, hey, if you have any other questions, any concerns, come back up, and we can talk about it and make sure that what you're doing is correct. So that's very that's a huge relief to me to know that, you know, I feel like I'm bothering this company, and I feel that I am dumb, and he's at least okay with it, which is good. So we are going to put these bearings in, and then we can finally plastigage this crank. He did say to start the tab side first. Okay. The other concern I had, that went up there before, was that this bearing, I don't know if I showed this before, doesn't have a locking tab on it. And the block does, and I'm 99% sure, well, let's not go that high. I'm 84% sure that the old bearing did have a locking tab here. But while I was there, he showed me a set of bearings for another car that doesn't have any locking tabs on this one. So, all of my oiling ports are lining up. Okay, bearings are in. Here comes the crank. Let's hope you fit. Woo-wee. Okay. That's the first time the crank's been on this block since I took it apart. Now, I have to clean up the surfaces on these parts here so that we can put our caps on. If you're unfamiliar with Plastigauge, it's basically a rudimentary measuring tool for this. It's not perfect, but unless you've got the expensive tools, it will do the job. As you can see, it's just this little filament looking stuff here. It's kind of like dental floss. Feels like wax dental floss. And then your measurement is done on these out here. There's two different sizes. This is millimeter size, and this is your inch size. They actually are the same, just conversions, but just make sure when you're checking, like this is all done in inches, so I'm going to be using this size to make sure I have all my clearances correct. Break off pieces that across my cap or across the bearing journal. So you can see piece there, 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 and there. So now I put my caps on and torque them to the spec. With these, I want just a little bit of oil on the threads. So I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the threads and take them to torque. And then we'll take them off and see what our measurement's at. Another thing I don't know if is known with all engines, but these caps are numbered. So this is number 7. And then there's a lip here that this has to drop down into. And it's tight. And they tell you do not draw them in with the bolts. You want to try to get it to fit with, like tapping them in with like a rubber mallet or something till it drops into its sleeve. It says I didn't know. There it goes. And these all get torqued to 80 foot-pounds, and then we'll take them back out. I'm getting all of my torque specs out of the Haynes manual. I also have a Chilton's manual, but for me this seems to read a little bit easier and a little bit more to understand. So, but yeah, this is where I'm getting all my torque specs and clearances out of. 80 foot-pounds. Those are all torqued to spec. Now we will untorque them and see where our clearances lie. Go. You can see, I don't think it matters which side you check it on. But there's our plastic gauge, and that's what we'll take our measurement on. I snipped off a piece of the paper for the plastic gauge, and these are our sizes that this plastic gauge does. And our preferred size for this block is 0015 to 002. So now we will take and just align this and see where we're at. And that there is 002, and I would say that that is darn close to that one for sure. Maybe maybe a little bit bigger on that, but we're smaller than that. So that should be good. Again, we're a hair bit bigger there, but we're smaller than there. That one's closer to 0015. We're definitely way smaller than that, so we're still within. And sliding. That's good. Yeah, definitely good. This one we're going to have to check on the bearing itself. I would say we're right on it, perfect. I'm going to say that we're 100% good on that. So I'm going to go through, clean off all the plastic gauge, a little bit of brake cleaner. Should take all that off, clean it off the bearing caps, pull the crank out, and then we will install the rear main seal and then install the crank for the final time. This is a two-piece rear main seal, and they are directional. This one's pretty easy because it's kind of keyed, and it keys, hold on, kind of keys in here only one way. Those tabs kind of just fit the way they fit. But with that, you can then easily tell which way this one goes. So again, it's got an edge on it that's that faces in, so in pressure build it'll seal. So there are a couple different ways I've seen of installing these, where they use soap, liquid soap, on the back edge oil on this edge and then RTV on your flange points. I'm not quite sure how you can do that without getting a mix of everything together. So I'm going to do something a little bit different that may or may not work, but I don't see why it wouldn't work. It would probably make it harder to remove it if I had to, but if I ever had to remove this seal again, I would probably drop the crank out of it anyway. I'd just pull the engine. So I am going to take Hi-Tac. Hi-Tac is one of my favorite sealants. And I'm going to put a little bit of Hi-Tac on the bottom of it and drop it into the groove. It should serve two purposes. One, it's kind of a lubricant. It should make this drop down into the slot without doing any damage to it. And it's also a gasket. Just like that. The other thing I did see on these is that you have to, well, they don't have to. You don't have to do anything. You're supposed to put a little bit of RTV on these edges because oil could seep out along this cap. So just on this edge, you're supposed to put a little bit of RTV. So we're going to do that as well. Be very careful not to get it on that on the flat surface as much at all. I'm doing my best not to get it on there at all, but I'll wipe off what I can because that would affect your bearing tolerance if it got between there. I don't think it'll take much to seal it. With that done, I'm going to put assembly lube on all of the bearings. A little bit on the seal. Okay. We can put the crank in for the last time. Crank is cleaned. Cleaned all the surfaces for the bearings. Ah. There we go. Now that's done. I'm going to do the same thing with this upper seal, bottom seal. Bottom seal, I'm going to put a little bit of Hi-Tac on it and seat it. Cleaned up all the bearings again after I did the Hi-Tacking on it. Okay, drop right in. Still a little bit of oil in the bolts, that's good. Those all start, okay. The next one. I'm going to go through and assemble all the caps just like I did before and torque them all down, and next time you see it, this should be set for its final time. Well, the crank is in and it rotates. This is monumental for me. Cam is in, and that rotates probably. No, it does. It's been sitting there, so I'm sure that lubrication has got it locked down. This is fantastic. Okay. Pistons. We will install pistons on it. So I'm going to rotate it over. Yeah. I've got a box of 60 over pistons, and they are all numbered somewhere. There, that's number 1. And then I guess the important thing on these pistons is that this is a little tiny spit hole, and this is supposed to aim towards your cam. So these pistons go in like this, which would make sense because that's what my piston says is the front. So I have to make sure that all of these are like that and that they go this way. So I'm going to lubricate these bores a little bit with a little bit of oil. Just a little bit of clean oil. And run it down the bore. This is going to go very similar to the crank and everything. I'm going to clean up both surfaces, put a set of bearings in, and plastic gauge on those bearings as well to make sure those are within tolerance. And if that's the case, the rotating assembly will be almost done other than the timing set. So let me clean these and we will put bearings in. I talked about this before, I do believe. These connecting rods are out of a 78 CJ7 engine. Same engine, just a 78. But these have what are called the 707. The 707 number on them. They're actually stamped 707 right there. And I forgot what the other ones were, 409s maybe. The ones out of the 84 were 409s. And the dimensions of the connecting rod are identical. All that's the same except the webbing on the 707s is supposedly bigger. So it's supposed to be the strongest of the CJ7, I think up into the YJ connecting rods. Not that it matters, I'm not putting that kind of crazy horsepower through this, and that only happened because the other machine shop pressed my other connecting rods that came out of this engine onto the undersized pistons, and instead of having the new machine shop take brand new pistons off those connecting rods that I can possibly use in Ruby, I just pulled the connecting rods out of another block that I had and just happened to have that they were 707s. They're not always 707s, they just happen to be 707s. So now that's what's on this one. So that is in. I'm going to index the piston rings to 180, not 180, 180? No. 90. We're going to index the piston rings and make sure none of them are on top of each other. Again, that's always it's always a thing because piston rings do spin, but if you can keep them to start out with not in line, that's good. But again, piston rings spin under load, or piston rings spin while they're going, so they won't be in the same spot anyway. So that's darn close to being a third out all the way around. Seems like that's correct and tight. Again, we have a little bit of oil in the bore already. front of piston. That. And there's a piston in. So I'm going to do the same thing all the way down on these. I'm going to put my plastic gauge, and then again, this is numbered 1. That side is numbered 1. That's where the spit hole is. You should just drop on nice and snug. And these are set to 33 foot-pounds. And I will probably just do them one at a time. I'll check this one, clean it, and assemble it. And just go all the way down the line like that, because it's going to be really difficult to do it any other way. 33 foot-pounds on this. Okay, and we will remove that. Nice thing on this, the preferred on both of these is the same. So 002, 0002, something like that, 002 is the preferred on. So the nice thing about these is they are the same as the crank bearings, but I was looking in the book, the range for this is basically this. This whole range is good, is standard, but the preferred is 002. So obviously I'm bigger than that, but I'm way smaller than that. I'm probably closer to that, and preferred I'm just there, so I'm well within my range. So that's good. I'm going to clean this plastic gauge off, this journal, and the cap, and put the engine assembly grease on there, and I'll just run down the line doing all the same thing all the way down. It'll be the same process as doing the other stuff, so you don't need to see that. And next time you see it, hopefully all the pistons will be in, and that will be awesome. And with that, all of the pistons are in, and they've all been plastic gauged. They're all within spec, or, well, they're all at the preferred spec or a 5,000th off, which is within spec still. So all of that is in. The only thing left to do is put on the crank pulley, or the timing gears. So let's do that really fast. I do believe one has to be at top dead center, which could be fun because I don't know if I can turn that to get back to the top dead center. Other way. Oh man. Well, with that, we'll end the video. I was going to put the timing set on, but I don't have the strength to keep rotating this now. There's nothing to grab underneath there, and I didn't bring the bolt for the crank to turn it. So I can't get it to the top dead center to do this. So I'm going to end up slicing my hands up on the cast surface. So we'll leave it with this. We have a rotating assembly in here for the most part. I think it's just not connected. So on the next video, we'll put the timing set on, and we'll put the head on, and put the lifters in and everything, and we'll have a assembled long block. I want to thank everybody who made it through this video. I know it was kind of long. I haven't done the editing yet, but I have a feeling it's going to be longer than some. And hopefully the next one will be, with just the headwork, will be a little bit shorter. But please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope everybody has a great week.